Hey, welcome to my podcast, Kevin O with Unplugged, where we talk about life, leadership, and all the things in between. I want to welcome you today as we wrap up the year. Merry Christmas, by the way. This should be the day after Christmas if you're listening to it as I post it. But as we wrap up 2023 and kind of press into 2024, I don't know how your mindset goes and kind of what the process is for how you kind of get this in gear. Um, I start really right around this time. Even actually, it's been about 2 weeks now, and I've already been processing like, what do I want 2024 to look like? We've talked a little bit about planning and forecasting and those kind of things in previous podcasts, but um, today I really want to press in and kind of help you set up really a great start to a great year. Okay, so before we get to that spot, I want to give you a little bit of commercial work. Um, 2024 is going to be the best year of my business life to date. Now, I've only had 1 year of business, and let's be honest, it was the best year of business. It was also the worst, right? I've got only uphill to go from here. I've got a lot of aspiration, a lot of desire, a lot of growth. I've got a lot of opportunity right now. Some amazing things have just kind of been placed into my lap that I would call coincidental. A great friend of mine would call them God winks, but they're opportunities nonetheless, and opportunities that we get to press in and say yes to. And my thesis right now that I'm kind of working on, I've told you so many times before, your future is defined by the questions you're willing to answer. And honestly, so my mentor, John Maxwell, says that success is found on the other side of yes. And so often we find reasons to say no because of fear. Usually it's because of fear patterns in play. Most of the clients that I work with right now, the first thing we do is assess what is your fear? What is the thing that we're trying to actually squash right here so you can actually advance to where you want to go? And so that's what we develop, that's what we work on. But success is found on the other side of yes. So to get to that spot, if you want to have greater success, and we've already defined success that it's just better than you were yesterday. So if you're going to see improvement, then you've got to say yes to some things. Well, what do you need to say yes to? For me, I found a great opportunity. I wanted to take my son on a missions trip last year to go back to Costa Rica, where he was born, and to visit some of the places that we had been and see some of the stories that we had been, all the while knowing that one of the biggest aspirations of our lives was to be able to get back into Latin American something, life ministry, something. We have absolutely loved that time of life. For us, it's been 14 years since we've experienced anything like that. And we just had this great desire to get back into that zone. And so we decided to say yes to a missions trip last year. My son and I would go on this. We would fundraise. We would pull together costs. It was expensive. It would cost us $5,000 to go, just him and I. And so it was not a small feat for us to pull this together. But we said yes, and we planned and we processed and we asked for help, and we pulled it off, and we navigated through it. It was a great experience. We have some great memories from it. And while I was there, I found another opportunity that I could say yes to. I found a ministry that needed some guidance, some help, some leadership development. And so I said, yes, I'll help you with this. And that resulted in another request from a mission organization looking for someone to do some missions trip leading. And so I said, yes, let's talk about it. And now it looks like I may be able to do this multiple times a year, and I may be able to take some family members with me and actually move this along. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it actually is like a huge answer to prayer that we have been praying. One of the requests that we had, we put together 5 things that we wanted to see as a family. I'll get my 5th finger in there. We wanted to see 5 things come together as a family over the next 5 years. And the Bible says that when you agree on something, when multiple people agree on something in the name of the Lord on earth, it will be done in heaven. And so we began to agree on what we were doing as a family. I led my family into this. And one of those things was we want to be catalytic for a village transformation in, I specified Guatemala, but maybe it's Latin America, maybe it could be anywhere down there. And so it looks like Costa Rica may be the place that we start doing some work into. But it all came through an intentional, very clear, specific desire that was brewing inside of our hearts. And one of the theories that I've been processing lately is that, when the Bible says you have not because you ask not, one of the reasons why that is the case is because we're not clear on what we're asking for. When you actually really drill down with specificity and you get very clear on what you're asking for, there comes like a nudge in the direction. We just do not know. First of all, we do not know what we want. And second of all, we do not have the audacity to ask for whatever reason. So let's get clear on this. And as we press into the end of the year, the beginning of the next, I want to just tell you that I'm hosting a class, a mastermind group. Now, I don't know if you know what a mastermind group is, but there is a theory behind masterminds that when you pull multiple minds together to move in the same direction, it cannot help but be realized. And this is the start of a mastermind. I have one that's longer, that's more intense, it's more expensive. But it's not for a short period of time. It's long-term commitment. This one is just to kind of get people in the process and see, do you have the mind power to do this? But I'm going to call this the mastermind called, I'm going to call this How to Have the Best Year of Your Life. And over 4 weeks of this course, we'll investigate what needs to become a part of your story. And we'll also figure out the price that you need to pay, not me, the price that you need to pay, whatever that price is. There's a price everywhere. Sometimes it's a monetary price, sometimes it's a sacrificial price, sometimes it's a physical price. There's a price that you have to pay to arrive at the place that you want to go, and we will investigate that together. Be on the lookout for that. I'm still putting together the implications for what that looks like, and I believe we're going to start on January 15th, but process through that. And so that brings me to the spot that I want to talk to you about today. And that is your word for the year. Now, typically, maybe we've talked about this before, but you have the idea of, New Year's resolutions and those kind of things. I gave up on New Year's resolutions years and years ago because they're pointless. But I didn't stop kind of putting a filter on what I wanted my year to look like. So I can't remember exactly what year it was. It must have been 2017 or 18. Maybe not. No, it had to have been that one of those years, but I gave up on the whole resolution thing. And I just decided, you know what, this year I'm going to adopt a word, right? And so I bought into that word of the year mentality, and I can't remember what the first word was. But 1 year along the way, I just decided, you know what, this year I'm going to be intentional. So my word for the year became intentional. I'm going to be intentional about work. I'm going to be intentional about my family. I'm going to be intentional about my parenting. I'm just going to be intentional. And I found that at the end of the year, I had a lot of movement on intentionality, but I felt like I had opened up a whole new can of worms and a whole new process of everything that I felt like I started but didn't finish any of. And so then I decided, you know what, let's do this again, but let's adopt a caveat to it. So my word for the year became intentional, and my focus became finances, or intentional relationships, or intentional marriage, or intentional something. And as we come to, and I've decided now that for the rest of my life, I'm just going to adopt that mentality. My life will be intentional from this point forward. It has been, and it will continue to be. And I find that as I continue to drill into with specificity the idea of intentionality, great things begin to happen. When you really focus the best of your effort on one specific caveat of life, it can really move some major mountains in your life. You will see a lot of production, movement, advancement, a lot of accomplishment happen because your mind is all focused in one direction. The most powerful thing, I don't know, can I quantify this? I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but the most powerful thing on earth is your brain. And if you can put it into action, if you put it into focused work, there is no telling what you can actually accomplish with it. The problem is that there's so much distraction in our world today that we don't have the ability to put it into work. You have to force this into action. And when you do, you accomplish a whole lot more than you thought you could. So here's the thing. Here's a couple quotes I wanted to give you from John Maxwell. He wrote a book. I have it right here. It's called Intentional Living. Great book. And then I also want to a couple excerpts from this book right here, The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. And the first chapter in this book is the law of intentionality. And so from this book right here, he says this: we want our lives to matter. We want our stories to be of significance. Who's gonna deny that? We want our lives to matter. We want our stories to be of significance. Well, how do you do that? You've got to begin to ask different questions. You've got to begin to track a different trajectory, a different process, a different outcome. You've got to be seeking something different. He also says this, same book: if your story isn't as meaningful or significant or compelling as you want it to be, you can change it. You have to change it. You've got to do something incredibly and entirely different. You cannot just boil down to, this is what, quote unquote, the universe has spelled out for me. This is the story that God wrote for me. No. The process is that you have to be able to see that you're worth more, that you're capable of more, that you have more, that there's more out there to receive or to gather or whatever it is. You have to make that decision. My thought along the way is this: if you're not experiencing the outcomes that you want to have, you dream about having, or you envision yourself getting, then it's time to change something in your life. You have to make an intentional change. The reason that we are reluctant to make intentional changes about our life is kind of twofold. We've already touched on both. One, clarity. We're just not clear on what we want. We use statements like, I don't know. It's not okay to have I don't know answers. It's not. In fact, I tell my clients, and maybe I've said this on my podcast before, but I will tell people there's two phrases that you're not allowed to say when we work together. And honestly, I'll fire you as my client if you do this. But you're not allowed to say the word I can't, the phrase I can't. You can't do that. Why? Because it's an inhibitor. It's a prohibitor. It prevents you from doing anything. You can't argue with the word can't. It just becomes like, you have just testified, prophesied an area of impossibility. Your mind will not go where you have declared it cannot go. And so you restrain yourself. You put handcuffs, a chain, shackles on your life and hold you back from the potential that you have in front of you. So that's number one. Number two, I don't know. When we declare I don't know, we literally build a brick wall in front of us, and it's this impregnable force field that cannot be navigated. In fact, you have to circumnavigate it. You've got to go around it. And so what do? You ask other questions. What about this? What about this? What about this? And I find a lot of times that when you have that I don't know mentality, you say I don't know to everything. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. And basically all you've done is you've built the freaking wall of China around your future, and you can't get through it. You can't get around it. You cannot get there. Why? Because you don't know. Stop saying I don't know. Figure out how to say away. Figure out a different response. And be careful that you don't fill it with how questions, right? How questions don't really help you at all. It's not your business to know how. The great Les Brown said, it's not your job to know how. It's your job to make commitments. And then he says, the universe will give you some answers. And I would testify and say that God will give you some answers. That's what a life of intentionality is about. It's about you recognizing I have power, potential, and possibility, and I'm going to get there. So the first thing I said was clarity. We don't know what we want. The second thing is fear. We don't think we can get what we want, or we're afraid of what the implications might be to get us there. And so you've got to be intentional this year about resolving some fear. It took me a long time, over 2 years, to reduce my fear. But once that clicked for me, once that switch went off in my mind, I felt like I became an unstoppable force. I felt like I became this person that said, there's nothing that we cannot do. There's nowhere we cannot go. There's nothing that we cannot handle. We are out for it today. And I was so restrained and restricted by fear. One day I'll tell you my fear story. I'm actually writing it in a book right now. I'm writing a book about I can do all things. I'm writing through that idea of fear right now. And I really did not realize how restrained and how captive my mind was because of fear. And it resolved because I intentionally looked at it, targeted it, and said, "No more. You're not part of my life anymore." So, um, in this book, the 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth, I go through this with most of my. In fact, I have a mastermind going on about this right now in my Entrepreneurs Network, which is kind of my higher level mastermind. We meet every month, once a month, and it's a powerful. I'm watching these guys literally make incredible strides in their becoming and who they want to see of themselves and what needs to happen. And I'm really proud of them for the process of what they're doing. But in this book, Maxwell talks about some gaps. He calls them growth gap traps, and I talk about this in some of the lunch and learn talks that I am invited to do by some various groups and companies and all that. But I'm just going to list them out for you real quick. The assumption gap, I assume that I will grow automatically. That's a pretty big one. The knowledge gap, I don't know how to grow. This is the one I hear most often. I just don't know how. I don't know what to do. And so, isn't it? It's amazing to me how many people willfully choose to stay ignorant. In other words, they say, I don't know, and I don't want to know. Why? Because they know with knowledge comes responsibility. But here's the other problem to that: ignorance also has responsibility. You don't know what you don't know, but you're also guilty of what you don't know. I tell that to clients all the time, and they immediately like, yeah, I see that. And I think we've talked about that before too. But number 3, the timing gap. It's not the right time to begin. Man, I've heard that 100 times. The mistake gap. I'm afraid of making mistakes. We all make mistakes. You got to embrace that. Growing is going to be messy. I love what his mentality in this is, and I've seen this before, is that you're never good when you begin. So just embrace the fact that you're going to suck at it for a little while. And every time that you make a presentation that sucks, or whatever your thing is, maybe you're a builder and your first building projects are terrible. You don't know that. You did the best you could and you presented it, and then you learned and you grew, and you're like, man, I'm never going to do that again. I remember those days. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. Being afraid to make mistakes can restrain you from actually making improvement. So embrace the mistakes. The perfection gap. I have to find the best way before I start. And man, this is the one that really hampers people. They feel like they have to present a perfect product before they can present anything, but it's just not true. That's a comparison thing. And really what it comes down to is that the perfection piece is only in your mind. It's only in your mind, no one else's mind. Because as they receive it, it's a perfect product. They don't know anything else. They have nothing to compare it to. When I was in the church world, I remember talking about this so frequently because we would get really hard on ourselves if something didn't go right. And I would tell our people all the time, listen, guys, no one knew what it was supposed to be anyway. No one knew the plan. And so to them, it was perfectly received, unless there was something glaringly wrong or whatever. And you know what? They're forgiving enough to be able to say, oh, that's okay. They're trying. They're doing their best. So number 6, the inspiration gap. I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like doing it. We're at number 7, the comparison gap. Others are better than I am. You're always going to feel like someone's better than you. And the expectation gap. I thought it would be easier than this. I love this mentality. I've told a lot of people this. When it comes to expectation gap, I thought it would be easier than this. Your dream, your aspiration is going to be harder than you thought it was. It's going to be more expensive than you thought it would be, and it's going to take longer than you thought it would. All of those things. So set your expectation in mind. It's going to be tough. This is going to be an uphill battle. There's going to be days that you want to give up. There's going to be moments that you thought it was going to break through and then nothing was going to break through. And you've got to continue in belief of yourself. I love this equation he gives in here. Preparation growth plus attitude plus opportunity plus action equals luck. Love that. Preparation or growth plus attitude plus opportunity plus action equals luck. And I have another book that I wrote years ago called Money Mind Shift. Sorry, I had to think about my own book there for a minute. And in one of the chapters, I actually spelled out, this is how you win the lottery. This is how you prescribe luck. I thought about that last week as I was walking through a Walmart and I saw a guy put money into one of those, like, it's like a, what is it called? I can't even remember. I described it as a soda machine for lottery tickets. I don't know what to call it. You put money in, you push a button, it gives you a ticket out, right? And so I literally wanted to go up to the guy and be like, dude, don't put your money in there. Give me your money and I'll teach you how to win the lottery. I'll teach you how to get lucky. It's not something that that happens to you. It's not by chance. It's by action. It's by preparation, planning, attitude, action, all those things. When that happens, you can actually prescribe a powerfully prosperous outcome. So as we resolve this today, as we bring this to conclusion, the law of intentionality, what are you going to be specific about when it comes to 2024? I've chosen mine. This came to me the other day. I'm not getting old, but I feel like I'm not getting old. But as I was, as I'll just tell you how this went down. I decided that for 2024, my area of intentionality is going to be health. I feel like I'm a little overweight. I feel like I'm not as in shape as I want to be, as I have been before. I used to do these intense, insane workouts multiple times a week, and I missed the way that my body felt when I did that. And I'm not quite ready to get back to that level yet, but I want to be more in shape than I am right now. And so I joined a gym a couple weeks ago, and I've been kind of dragging my feet. I think it was over Thanksgiving that I joined this gym, and I haven't really gone. I haven't done anything yet. So this came to me the other day, the idea of intentionality in health. And so I was like, all right, that's the first step. I need to go. And so I actually made a reservation. So it's like a commitment. Someone knows to expect me. And I showed up and had a conversation with the trainer because I wanted to put together. And he says this. He says, well, I kind of made this light for you, and I'm instantly offended. I'm like, all right, I got to take this. He says, I know you're not young. What are you, in your 30s? And I was like, I'm in my 40s, which is not old. But he's like, I don't want to kill you because I don't want you to get like tendonitis, or I don't want you to like muscle spasms or compressions in your back. So I'm not going to put you on a really, really hard and fast track towards anything. He said, just be consistent. Just do this. Do it for 3 or 4 months and see how you feel. See if it's making any improvement. And I realized the fact that, to get where we want to go, it's just single small steps of discipline, self-control, action. It's nothing crazy. It's nothing crazy. You can build the positivity of your life through intentionality, through open-mindedness, clarity, through single steps at a time. So this is where I'm at. I'm curious to know where you're at. Where do you want to go in 2024? At the end, I've used this several times now. When you get to this date 1 year from now, whatever this date would be, if you're listening to this as it's released, this would be December 26th, 2023. So 1 year from now, the day after Christmas 2024, and you look back over the last 12 months, did you do what you wanted? Did you accomplish what you thought you would? Or did you feel like you left some on the table? It starts with an action today. Today, I am going to take a step towards, and that's intentionality. And so for me, it's intentional health. I'm going to make healthy choices so that I can sustain my body. Because I know I want to be as agile and effective and as quick and as energetic as I want to be. And I know that comes through discipline and through intentionality. So what's it for you? It could be 100,000 different things. I can't prescribe this one for you. You've got to do some soul searching and some investigating on what it needs to be and become so that you can become the best you. Listen, this has been fun today. As always, I am here to help. Don't ever hesitate to reach out to me and let me know what I can do to come alongside of you. Don't forget about my mastermind that I mentioned to you at the beginning, how to have the best year of your life. That's a great facet on this. I would really suggest to do that. It's going to start January 15th. It's going to cost $197. and it's going to be on Zoom. Whatever the day is for January 15th. I can't remember what day that is, but we're going to meet 7 p.m. the same day of every week for 4 weeks. And it's going to really get you rolling. And the next step after that would be like, okay, do you need a more intentional something? Do you need to press into my other mastermind group that I host once a month? Do you need some? I offer one of the things I'm really doing a lot right now is I'm doing intensive coaching packages where I work with a client one-on-one for a period of 3 months, and we really unpack the goodness of what you want to become. And honestly, every client that I'm working with right now on that intensive level is saying, this is gold. This is a gold mine. It's revolutionizing their lives. If that's something that you want to do, if you're ready to press into some really aggressive change, let's have a conversation, because I've got space for you. I am filling up pretty quickly on these. In fact, I think I have about 8 that are going to fire in January. And so my space is going to be a little bit limited on that based on availability. So if you are curious and you're ready to go with some intentional change, then it's time for us to have a conversation. Let me know how I can help. I look forward to doing whatever I can to come alongside you and help you make your dreams come true. Have a great holiday season and a great new year. We'll talk soon. Bye.